What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mile High Sports. Today we are live from New Orleans at Media Row.
Let's go.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it little by little. There's Nate Lundy, by the way. Shawn Drotar with you here. Aniello Piro, oftentimes on the SCO show, of course, out here. And that's part of the reason that you're here right now is we wanted to talk a little bit. We have some terrific interviews that are coming here, all courtesy of our friends from Hooters, of course. Hooters sponsoring
Shout out Hooters, baby.
Everything that
Let's
we're doing
go.
out here. Thanks so much to all our friends out there. Make sure you go check them out for the big game this weekend. By the way, you can do that whether you're going in person or you can even order to go as well. Cater.
Yes.
All of those options available.
5 locations across Colorado. You got Colorado Springs, you got Aurora, you've got Westminster, you've got Lone Tree, and you've got Loveland. So be sure to check out our
There you
friends
go.
over
Well,
at
it's
Hooters.
funny that you mentioned Loveland because one of the things that we wanted to talk about a little bit was we'll have some of these great interviews. Mike Smith, former head coach of the Atlanta
Great
Falcons,
conversation.
2008. Coach of the Year from AP. We'll have an opportunity to talk to Joey Porter Sr., former Colorado State Ram and longtime Steeler, of course. Some interesting discussions there. And Raheem Mostert, Broncos fans remember him probably not so fondly.
Yeah.
Fantasy football
I was going
fans.
to say, he's helped my fantasy team
I was
a
about
few
to say
times.
fantasy football fans remember him very fondly. Touchdown leader in 2023. And the new owner, by the way, of a sport fishing team. You'll hear more about that to go. But you talked about Loveland. That's part of the things that's interesting. Matt Miller, a good friend of the program here, love Matt over at ESPN, put together his latest mock draft, Aniello. And there are interesting things to look at for the Broncos, but also for the Buffs. So let's just go right down
Tell me
to
more.
the very beginning here. Well, we know that the Travis Hunter, and you can imagine that he was going to be high up there. They don't have him as the first pick.
Not surprising.
Do have him as the second to Cleveland. That's
Don't go to
spot
Cleveland. I don't want
because
Travis in Cleveland.
Who
They're
does?
going to waste him. He's going to rot in Cleveland.
Well, you wouldn't really. I don't know if you want to play wide receiver in Cleveland. 'Cause I don't know who the quarterback is.
Yeah, if I'm Travis and I'm drafted by Cleveland, I'm playing one-way cornerback. I'm not worried about that offense.
Yeah. You can just play on the defensive side. Forget that. But they have him going to Cleveland at number 2 overall. Keep in mind, too, even though that's a bad spot, Kevin Stefanski is a multiple-time coach of the year.
True.
A lot of people look at Cleveland and say, oh, it's a train wreck. They have a good coach. The situation was a mess with the quarterback position.
True.
Stabilized a little bit with Jameis Winston. But look, that is still a pretty good team. Unfortunately, the problems with the season made Myles Garrett decide he wants out. But you might be able to maximize that too.
Yeah, you might be able to, but like Cleveland is just such a dysfunctional organization.
It's not an ideal landing
They
spot
have
for Hunter.
literally been terrible my entire life except for 1 year when they made the playoffs. I mean, it has just been so up and down.
Well,
with
they
them,
were really
down
good
than
in the
up.
late 80s. They just kept
Yeah,
running
back
into
in the day.
They just run into the Denver
The
Broncos
helicopter,
every time.
.
Keep losing in the AFC Championship, but it's obviously been a while. And the scenario here with Hunter, it's tough because if you're a really good player, you're going to get picked high. If you're going to get picked high, you get picked by a team that's not very good. That's just how it works.
That's how it goes. No, I'm very interested because remember, the Titans GM, I want to say, came out about a couple of weeks ago and said, we're not going to pass on a generational talent with the number 1 overall pick. And you actually saw Travis Hunter's odds go from all the way up here to be number 1 to dwindling down a little bit. I put some pizza money on that just because you never know. I think Travis Hunter is without a doubt the best player in the draft across the board, the most dynamic player, but it's about position of need.
Always.
Tennessee needs a quarterback. Cleveland probably needs a quarterback as well, but we know that their situation's a bit unique, so we'll have to see. But here's what I'll say, Shawn. Any team that ends up drafting Travis Hunter is getting a tremendous man. I know you had the opportunity, being up there in the press box, seeing him in person. I've been around him a little bit as well. I mean, he's a better man than he is a player, so you don't have to worry about any of those off the field type
That's
of
one of the
dynamics
things I think
Travis
actually has value. When you're talking
Huge
about a guy
value.
picked that high as the face of the franchise, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want the face of the franchise to embarrass your franchise. And I feel like with Travis Hunter, that is
that you don't even have to ask that question.
Don't worry about it. This guy was a 4.0 student.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't worry about it. Number 6 is an interesting one because we had felt this was the way things wanted to go for a while, that the Sanders family would like it to go. That ended up with Shedeur in Las Vegas. That's what happens in Matt Miller's mock. He drops to 6 and ends up with the Raiders, which, look, okay, Broncos fans, I get it. Buffs fans, I get it. You're like, we got to add this guy to the Raiders, but oh my goodness. One, it's what Shedeur and the Sanders family would like.
They would love it.
That's what they want. Turns out to be that way. Think about the AFC West if this happened. You have the Chiefs, of course, maybe winning 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid said he's coming back. Travis Kelce said he might. We know Mahomes isn't going anywhere. He's still in his prime. You now have Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, Sean Payton and Bo Nix with the Broncos, and then you have Pete Carroll and Shedeur
It's insane.
with the Raiders. How much fun is the AFC West going to be if that ends up being happening?
It's got to be the greatest collection of coaching talent in any one division.
Sean Payton, by the way, was the youngest guy.
That was just crazy.
He's the youngest coach in the division.
That's insane to think about.
That.
It really is. And I mean, look, the Chargers, I know the Chargers and Broncos both, you had 3 teams at the AFC West this year. And look, I understand that, maybe, I don't want to say Pete Carroll outwore his welcome, but Seattle was just kind of ready to, switch it up there a little bit. Pete Carroll can still coach. I mean, he is fired up. I mean, he might have more youthful energy than you and I combined, to be honest with you. At his age, too.
When you find out how old he is, you're like, no.
It's crazy. But
like
you have so much experience, not just at the NFL level of success, but obviously the collegiate level.
One
Carroll,
of only
Harbaugh.
3 people who have won a national championship as a head coach in college and a Super Bowl.
I know one more.
Coach.
Jimmy Johnson, who's the third? Do you know off the top of your head? I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
it's the other Cowboy coach, Barry Switzer.
Yeah.
There's your 3.
Okay.
So I don't know. But it's kind of crazy when you think about it that way.
It is.
Like,
and so you have a Super Bowl and national championship winner. You have a guy that's gotten to a Super Bowl in Harbaugh and won a national championship in Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, of course. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl, and Andy Reid has a whole trophy case.
Yeah.
I mean, the experience levels through the roof, and you would think with Pete Carroll and the way he coaches and the relationship he had with quarterbacks, Pete Carroll's so good with that even after this fallout with Russell Wilson that it led with him in Denver briefly and then in Pittsburgh, there have been rumblings that they might be able to just sync back up with the Raiders again, that they've actually sort of mended fence. You're like, yeah, that could work. But if you're Shedeur Sanders, if you're Deion Sanders, you're like, yeah, I'm fine with this guy. I'm fine with playing with Pete Carroll.
Yeah, 100%. And, the Giants was another team that, there's some reports. Like, I know that they've been kind of a broken organization for the last few years, but Big Apple spotlight, like Shedeur is going to thrive if he ends up in one of those types of cities.
A star power in Vegas.
Yeah. No, Vegas would make a lot of sense. Yeah. And, it's weird.
I think it's the perfect fit for him.
You're used to rooting for him and Coach Prime,
yeah.
and now he's going to be enemy number 1 if he goes to Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine that? I mean, that's what happens.
I don't think he's dropping that far. I just think it's
I have a tough time thinking.
Like we were talking about with Coach Smith.
I do.
It's a quarterback-driven league. Like, one of these teams in the top 5, I think, is going to be like, you know what? We need a quarterback bad. Let's take I don't want to say take a chance because I believe in Shedeur, but you're also going to make a lot of money right off jersey sales and get your fan base fired up. So whether it's Travis Shedeur, we'll see Cam Johnson as well. These guys I think are going to be top 5.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting. Cam Ward out of Miami. Of course,
all about the
think about this. This is something I've been toying with for a while when it comes to draft. And obviously it's a quarterback league, but. Well, you just raved about your Cowboys. They paid Dak Prescott a whole bunch of money, and now they want to get rid of him, and now you can't. It's one of the reasons why in the early parts of the draft, I think more now than ever, picking quarterbacks makes sense because you get them for that 5 years. You get them at a comparatively inexpensive deal.
100%.
Because if you have to pay them, holy cow. I mean, you have to pay, you paid Pat Surtain, right?
Right.
And it's 20 mil roughly.
Benito's due for an extension, right?
And Benito may get 20 or even more because of his ability to pass rusher. Quarterbacks, if you can start and walk and chew gum at the same time, you're making 40 million. So the value in picking quarterbacks high in the draft is actually larger because the salary cap impact works for a longer span of time.
Yeah, and what it also does is provide you with that flexibility, right? I mean, like, look, I don't think anybody had Washington, at least I know I didn't before the year being in the NFC Championship game. But now if you're a Commander fan or someone who covers the league, Washington is going to be set up for the next 3 or 4 years with some flexibility on that roster because you're not having to dedicate this massive piece of the pie to the quarterback position.
Right.
You see obviously Houston with CJ Stroud. I think it's also part of the reason why the Broncos, were able to kind of swallow that Russell Wilson pill with all the dead cap money is because they didn't have to go out and sign a mid-level quarterback. They were able to draft Bo Nix, develop him, and now you hope they're going to go out there and get some nice solid weapons there in the receiver department, running back room and whatnot. And all it does is when you have a quarterback on the cheap, for lack of a better phrase, it provides you with that roster flexibility to go out there and get premium talent at premium positions.
Yeah, because keep in mind, I mean, backup quarterbacks, Jarrett Stidham made $7 million.
Crazy. And is that the best job in the world?
Yes.
Backup quarterback?
Yes, it is, actually.
$7 million,
yes. And then you can go be a coach if you want. But,
exactly.
But I mean, that's what your top picks are getting. So, I mean, you're paying backup money for mid-range backups, $7 million a year, and you can go get a young quarterback. Even a worst case, it doesn't pan out, and he's good enough to be your backup. You still saved money.
100%.
I mean, that's how bad it is. But we talked about Loveland to begin with because for Matt Miller, at the number 20 pick, That's who the Denver Broncos end up with. Tyler Warren goes to the Indianapolis Colts, which is exactly where I think he goes, unless someone trades up, jumps ahead of them, which could be the Dolphins may be interested in moving that 13th pick, and the Broncos might be interested. But Colston Loveland out of Michigan, the selection for the Broncos. We talked about the tight end position and how important it is. We talked with Thomas Dimitrov. Had a chance to talk to him yesterday. Keep this in mind, too. Talked about that importance of that tight end. Last 9 Super Bowl champs have had a tight end that's at least 45 catches during the regular season.
How many?
The last 9.
Wow.
Now, of course, few of those are the Chiefs. But out of the 10 Super Bowl matchups dating back to Broncos and Panthers, 85% of those teams.
Wow.
Just not the winners, just the got there. 45 or more catches from the top tight end. The Broncos' top tight end in reception was Lucas Kroll with 19.
Yeah.
Colston Loveland for the Broncos. If you can't get Tyler Warren, it's when you say position of need, there's position of like desperate, dire, emergency need.
They haven't had a legitimate tight end since like Julius Thomas, I feel like in regards to like a real receiving threat, you know, and I'm a big fan of the tight end, man. I think it's such a versatile position because if you get a guy who can block and also receive, like it's just, you know, they can kill you in a couple different ways, right? In that sense. So I think as much as, you know, I see people talking about Ashton Genty for the Broncos, right? There's going to be some good receivers coming out in this draft as well. I think if you can get a premium tight end, it's just such a rock of your offense for years to come, a safety blanket for Bo Nix, especially with some of the guys coming out of the draft. I would do anything to get Tyler Warren on this team, though.
Yeah, if I were the Broncos, I would be looking up at that 13 as well.
I don't even think
it is a 2-round mock from Matt. He goes to 51. Caleb Johnson of Iowa, the running back, ends up being the selection there. Johnson, top 10 in rushing this year, 21 touchdowns. I like grabbing the running backs out of that Big Ten physical conference, as you kind of know how to play. I like that. So, I mean, I don't hate that move. I get the Ashton Genty stuff. The tight end's a bigger need. You can find running backs. You can find wide receivers. Nowadays, they almost grow on trees.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about that with Mike Smith as well. You get a chance to hear that as well as the tight end breakdown.
Great interviews
with
today.
Joey Porter. Joey Porter talked specifically about the challenges and the leverage that those tight ends can put on the defenses that play in this game and all across the league. So an awful lot to talk about. It's going to be a fun day. I hope you enjoy it. We'll have Mike Smith, Joey Porter, Raheem Mostert.
Great conversations.
Yep, and more to come, obviously, but we'll just we'll get to the interviews. He's Aniello. I'm Shawn. This is Mile Sports.
At Hooters, you can watch all the games with your buddies. All your buddies. Like the ones with ice-cold beer. And wings that'll knock your taste buds into next Tuesday. You know, buddies you won't have to fight for the remote. Buddies who know a thing or two about football. And the fans who live for it.
Where else are you going to get all this?
Hooters, your official hangout for game day.
It is Mile High Sports Today from New Orleans and Radio Row. Nate Lundy, Shawn Drotar, and brought to you, as always, by our friends at Hooters Colorado, reminding you because it is actually Wednesday. That means it's Wing Wednesday at Hooters. All-you-can-eat wings, $16.59, every Hooters Colorado location. All you can eat, $16.59. Doesn't matter whether you want boneless or traditional in any of their world-famous sauces or rubs. Get in there today for Wing Wednesday. If you're watching the video right now, you can see that Raheem Mostert from the Miami Dolphins has joined us and has provided us with the Walter Goggins Goggle. It's a tongue twister.
Glass.
Can you say it?
Walton Goggins Goggle glasses.
There we go. All right. So we got these. I love the swag that we get. At Radio Row. We always get sometimes they bring us food, which is kind of nice. Thank God they gave us coffee this morning. It was a late night last night. Does that happen to you in New Orleans?
Well, I just got in last night. So flying in from Miami, it wasn't too bad of a trip. I know it was a far trip for you guys. So,
coming in from Denver, it's a little bit not a bad flight, but it's definitely been a couple of late nights for us. So we're happy to be able to be here. Can you please explain to me why you decided to get into sport fishing?
Yeah. So
we got the news that you were going to join us this morning, and I was looking at some of the notes, and I go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And so I got to hear the story behind this.
Yeah. So first off, I'm gonna talk about the shades and GoDaddy. So GoDaddy's launching their new platform. Is called GoDaddy Arrow. It's to help small businesses promote and basically expand those endeavors. And Walton did a great job. He's a small business owner. He's an actor, but he's also a small business owner, and he used Arrow to help elevate his business. And that's something that I was, I'm working with GoDaddy as well in doing that. I own a fishing team, and they're helping me with my website and everything like that to elevate my business. Got into fishing. I'm originally from Daytona Beach. I used to fish all the time as a little kid, and now I'm part owner of a team, man, and it's part of SFC Sport Fishing Championship. You'll probably hear more about it. Everybody's running around, but a couple of guys like me, Alvin Kamara. There's a couple NASCAR guys that are big investors in the sport fishing world. And so, yeah, we just try to elevate that as much as we can, and GoDaddy is helping us with that. So,
well, Denver Broncos fans, we're back in Colorado, Raheem, will probably be super happy to hear about the sport fishing and everything else, because the last time that they saw you back in 2023, you were in the middle of scoring a whole bunch of touchdowns and putting 70 on Denver in that game. For a team that had been down for so long, that felt like the very, very bottom, really. And the idea behind it that I think was the biggest surprise is that the Broncos didn't make changes.
Yeah.
And you have been around the league in a lot of different ways, even though you've put up good numbers, things kind of bounce around because teams make quick decisions.
Yep.
When the Broncos decided to retain Vance Joseph, not blame anybody necessarily for that and stick with it, and then look, they have a top 10 defense this year. The consistency matters, whether it's for players, coaches, all of that in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you have to have consistency in order to thrive in this league, right? And I mean, that's in everyday life. You have to be consistent, just like you guys have to be persistent in the radio and in the broadcasting and in the booth, right? What we did last year against the Broncos, and I'm a fan of the Broncos because I have a couple of teammates that I play with. DJ Jones, really good guy. Yeah, like he's the ultimate teammate. I've watched him. McGlinchey as well. Those two guys I definitely was peeping out. And so after that game, I believe that was the turning point for the season for you guys, and you guys had a better season, right?
Yeah,
and then it ended up being a better of a season. And especially for a first-year head coach, right? Yeah. With Coach Payton. So you look into what happened this year with you guys, and you guys were doing unbelievable things. Now we were watching because we were also in the mix and trying to get in that playoff berth spot. And
right.
We had to have you guys losing and us beat the Jets in order to win on that last game, and you guys did that, right? But you have to be consistent, and with Shawn, I know that, as a head coach, he's all about consistency. When he was in New Orleans, he did the same thing, having Drew Brees, being consistent, trying to make the playoffs as much as he can, winning the Super Bowl. And he has that same mentality over there in Denver, and especially with Joseph and everything like that on the defensive side. Sometimes you don't necessarily need change. You just have to rough it out, that first year. And then, the second year comes around and look, it paid off for you guys. So, I'm a huge fan. Like I said, I got teammates, Brandon Jones, another good teammate of mine. And just seeing you guys elevate even more is definitely inspiring.
You play for head coach Mike McDaniel, as a connection with Denver as well. Obviously.
Yep. He started out in Denver, being a ball boy. He's from the area. Him and Calais. I didn't even know Calais from Colorado. Got to understand his whole dynamic. He actually played against McDaniel in high school. And so, it's crazy, man. It's a lot of connection over there.
When you talk about consistency, let me ask, though, from your perspective, because like Shawn just said, you have bounced around different teams. How have you been able to try to stay consistent? Because if you're changing who your coaches are, you're changing the five guys you're running behind, all of those kinds of things have adjusted a lot over these 13 years. How have you managed to sort of keep yourself grounded?
Yeah, you have to be able to adapt, right? When there's change, you have to be able to adapt, but you also have to keep your own identity, and that's where the consistency part lies, right? For me, my identity is speed. I'm powerful, and I got good hands coming out of the backfield, right? In the catching world. So if I could still be consistent in those aspects and still elevate my game within the system, then I know that I could be more consistent moving forward.
Well, and you've got to have some pride with the fact that you have been in the league as long as you have. I mean, especially at the running back position, we see some guys that it's a flash. It's like a firework.
Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah.
but it doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
You've actually been able to extend it out.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why is because like the first several years in my career, I'd probably say 3 or 4, I wasn't getting that much action at running back, mostly special team stuff. And unfortunately, I was also injured, right? So that kind of delayed my carries a little bit, but it just helped me, try to get an understanding of what I need to do in the league, and trying to be consistent, right? With my health, with the coaching staff, with, my teammates, try to do everything that I possibly can to try to stay on the field as much as I can. So that way I could just have this longevity of a career. Now I'm going into year 11 as an undrafted running back. That's pretty much unheard of for a lot of different reasons. But man, I'm just elevating and growing as I go. And it's fun.
It is unheard of for an undrafted running back to lead the league in touchdowns, which you did back in 2023. So finding yourself bounce around practice squad to practice squad, undrafted, and then later in your career where a lot of guys don't even make it, then you lead the entire NFL in touchdowns.
Yeah.
How did that feel? That has to feel like at a certain point, hey, I proved it.
Yeah. No, I made a goal for myself. I mean, every year I try to make goals from the previous year, and I was close on some years in being a Pro Bowler. And so on my phone, I don't have it now, but every day I saw All Pro. Like, it was just black with white lettering, All Pro, and it was on my Apple Watch. And that was my mindset. Just try to be an All Pro as best as I can. How can I get that accomplished? How can I do that? And that year, man, it was, I was leaning towards that. I was really embracing that. And just doing everything that I possibly can to make that happen.
What would you tell, somebody like Ashton Genty that's going to come out here in the draft? Some of these young running backs, you just talked about how you were able to keep yourself healthy and keep yourself active. Obviously, the folks want to have as long of a career as they can. So if you're sitting there talking to a junior or senior in college right now that is getting ready to come into the NFL, whether they're a first-round pick or a sixth-round pick, what's your biggest piece of advice?
Catch out of the backfield.
Yep. Don't just run.
Yeah,
Right?
don't just run. You got to be
a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
you got to be versatile.
Yeah, you got to be versatile. You got to be dynamic. And you bring a spark to the offense, and you have to have that confidence. Just it's gonna be rough. Especially being a rookie. It's definitely gonna be rough for you. And it should be. It's rough for every rookie, right? That's coming into the league. No rookie has it easy. They have to put in the work, put in the time. You don't get much time because you go from NFL prep, to the combine to getting drafted, and then you still have to work out. And so that's like a 2-year process once you're out of college, right? And then you get your first off-season break. But until then, just keep working and keep putting your head down, keep grinding. It's gonna be rough, and just look at the outcome, because the outcome is always gonna be greater than what you're doing at that moment.
Raheem, you faced most of this. You faced this Kansas City squad in a Super Bowl with the 49ers.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of the same people in place. What makes that team so consistent and so dangerous? It seems like, especially now with an NFL record, 17 straight one-score wins, they don't seem to get phased.
I tell you what it is, and the secret is Spags. Spags is a great defensive-minded coach. He understands his players. He understands, what they bring to the table, and his players understand the system. And if you have that combination, you could have a good offense. But the saying is true: defense wins championships. And that was the case when we played against them. They shut us down. We were a high flying offense that ran the ball, threw the ball, but man, that defense is something special. And that's the case for this team, and that's been the case for the Chiefs for 2 years straight now, going on this 3-peat. And man, it's crazy, but it's definitely the defense.
Yeah, well, we know all about running into a defense in the Super Bowl in Denver because Seattle absolutely whooped our butts.
One offensive play.
Yeah.
That snap went over Peyton's head, and we went, well, shoot, now it's over.
Yeah.
We got problems. Folks, keep an eye out on Sunday during the game for the GoDaddy ad with
Walton Goggins goggle glasses.
There you go. Look at that.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistent.
If you want to learn more about all of that, go to GoDaddy.com. Raheem, great to talk to you. Best of luck as you continue through your career, and best of luck with the sport fishing. I just was fascinated by that. I was like, all right, this is something interesting. Like you see guys get, I'm going to open a restaurant. I'm going to do. No, I'm going to be a sport fisherman. But knowing your background and knowing the time you spent in Florida, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion of mine. You know, I love to fish. I love just going out there, just hooking my little bait up and just throwing my reel out there off the rocks in the jetties. So, and then I had the opportunity to buy into a team and compete for championships. So it's a whole nother championship you're chasing.
A whole
nother one.
I like it. I like it.
So
it's Raheem Mostert. It's Mile High Sports Today. We're back in a moment.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
With millions of page views every year, ColoradoPreps.com is the #1 source for the high school sports community to keep up with the latest news and scores. From football and volleyball to basketball and softball, ColoradoPreps.com provides a year-round hub for coaches, friends, and family to stay connected to their favorite schools and athletes, and keep an eye on their rivals. Covering high school sports from the peaks to the plains, you always get the latest at ColoradoPreps.com.
Welcome back to Mile High Sports Today. I'm Shawn Drotar, Aniello Piro with us here, and of course the man on the right needs very little introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Mike Smith, 3-time Sporting News NFL Coach of the Year, all brought to you by our friends at Hooters Colorado. Gear up for the ultimate game day at Hooters. Watch the big game February 9th at Hooters, and you could win a one-of-a-kind custom engraved Hooters Colorado Solo Stove. If you're tailgating at home for the big game, unbeatable takeout deals like the Big Game Party Pack, $4 off 20 wings or $6 off 50 wings. Get into Hooters for all of that football action. Coach, we were talking, but before we started here, you got to do New Orleans. Still gorgeous weather down here. You got the sticks out, got to play a little golf. Starting out your week well?
Yeah, except that back nine.
Oh,
classic.
But I'm not good enough to complain.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at the way the NFL, now that we are in the Super Bowl here with a chance of a team doing something they've never done, win 3 Super Bowls in a row. You of course won one with the Ravens, and the step it gets to get there, all of the steps it takes to win a Super Bowl, doing it twice in a row has been rather infrequent too. Even the idea of doing it 3 times is almost unconscionable. Can you tell us a little bit about the amount of work it's requiring for the entire organization all the way through to be able to do this year in and year out, knowing that you're the hunted every year?
My hat's off to the Hunt family, Andy Reid, and what they've been able to do, putting together an organization that's had the success that they've had.
Right.
It's just mind-boggling, really, where the league is supposed to be set up where everybody's on an equal playing field. By goodness, the Kansas City Chiefs are at a different level right now. And it'll be interesting to see if they're going to be able to punch their ticket this weekend, because it's going to be a challenge.
And it's interesting, right? Because it feels like the Kansas City Chiefs this year, obviously they've been dominant. You've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Andy Reid, but there was I could count probably on one hand, maybe even 2, how many close games they had this year. But the experience really pays off. I mean, that game against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game, they were down late. I know there was some controversy there. Did they get the first down? Did they not get the first down? But what a calming effect it is to know you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes and you have a coach like Andy Reid, where even if your back's up against the wall, it's almost like you expect them to figure out a way to get over the hump and figure out a way to win these football games. And I think Philly in their own right is a very talented team, but there's something about Mahomes and company in the pressure cooker that when the pressure and the lights are the brightest, they figure out a way to win these games.
NFL record 17 straight
crazy
wins in 1-score games.
Yes, it is mind-boggling that when the game is on the line, somebody either calls the right play or somebody makes a great physical play on the ball, and it just happens. And I would not count them out in a 1-score game in this game coming up on Sunday. It's unbelievable how Andy and that organization feels. They have this aura about them that if it's one score at the end of the game, it's our game.
Yeah.
We're going to win it.
Over in Denver, they finally got back into the playoffs this year, crawled back into it after a long run, the longest run in NFL history for a Super Bowl champ to have to get back to the playoffs. Sean Payton gets his guy in Bo Nix. They end up on the same page. It's kind of the same example. Obviously, we're not talking about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes yet. Maybe we never will. But the idea of your coach and your quarterback being on the same page, it's critical for success in the NFL. And when the Broncos were switching out either coach or quarterback, it felt like they were sort of doomed from the start.
Yes, there has to be an alignment. This is a quarterback-driven league. There's no doubt. And you're seeing it come to fruition in a lot of organizations. But, Patrick and Andy have done it as well as anybody. And it amazes me how through the entire organization, they don't blink. This is a team that truly doesn't blink. And watch Andy on the sideline. I mean, very rarely do you see him get out of sorts.
Yeah.
He doesn't matter if he's up 20, if he's down 7, and if they get the ball, they know they're going to make the play at the end of the game. They're on a roll, and it's going to be a history making if they win the game this weekend, as we all know. And I think that there's a lot of people that don't want to see him win,
right?
Just because, they're fatigued from watching them win. They want to see the way the league's supposed to be set up. Is everybody's got a chance, and right now it's not that way. Everybody's thinking it's Kansas City again.
And you even got to think like in Brady's era, right? When he was in his prime, you had Ben Roethlisberger, and the Steelers who won some Super Bowls. Right. Joe Flacco and the Ravens winning some Super Bowls, right? And so even
Eli Manning twice.
Exactly, the GOAT, right? Even Tom Brady had to go through his ups and downs to get to where he is with his multiple championships and whatnot. I want to take a left turn if we may, because you are uniquely qualified to answer this type of question. Obviously, at home in Colorado, we have got the Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter, who's getting ready to go to the NFL via the draft. Obviously, might be the number 1 overall pick. Is a shoo-in to be the top 5 pick. But as someone who's been a head coach, let's say you were the head coach of the Tennessee Titans today, right? And you've got the number 1 overall pick. How do you handle Travis if he comes to you in your coaches meeting pre-draft and says, Coach, I want to play both ways. I want to play receiver and I want to play cornerback. He just won a Heisman Trophy doing it. What's that like from an organization's perspective, dealing with a unique talent like that?
Well, I would want to first do a real deep dive into the statistics. It's never really been done, but I think that we do play counts, pitch counts, and all that, and we can extrapolate it out over a guy's career. And I would really want to dig into the analytics about that decision making, because as a coach, you're going to go, I want to put that guy out on the field and let him play on wide receiver, defensive back, and he's going to make plays for us. But how long does that project out if he's playing both ways for his career? I mean, this isn't an easy game. The NFL physically is not an easy game. And are you going to expose a player that you've invested as a top pick in the draft? Are you going to expose him and he's going to end up having a 5-year career instead of a 12-year career?
Right.
The idea, at least position-wise, you talked about it being a quarterback league. Well, in general, which position is more impactful in the quarterback league? The receiver who's catching it or the defensive back who's stopping him?
Well, on the defensive side of the ball, I would say that the cornerback is probably becoming more of a point of interest in guys in drafting than the guys that rush the passer. Some people want to say, well, if the guy doesn't get the ball off, they're not going to have a completion. And the other guys are going to say the corner, if he can defend and the guy does not catch the ball, then that's the way to go. And I think you're seeing more and more that you're going to see more and more corners and those type of players being drafted earlier.
Well, the point you're making, I think, is borne out, because usually the defensive player of the year is oftentimes the player who leads the league in sacks. This year, it's expected to be Denver's Pat Surtain. And That's kind of what you're talking about there. The idea of shutting down the opposing receiver, those guys that make $20, $25 million a year now, removing them from the side of the field. Denver, of course, had a great one in Champ Bailey, Louis Wright before that in the 70s. And now they have Surtain, and he's likely to win the best defensive player in the entire league. So is this just an evolution of the game now all of a sudden where it was always going to get there, or is this just become even more important than getting after the passer because of how accurate these guys are? It used to be, John Elway finished his career at under 60%. Under 60%,
crazy.
You get benched nowadays.
Oh yeah, no, you're one and done.
Yeah.
No, the game is evolving. It is a quarterback-driven league, and yes, you want to. Some people say if you put the guy on his back, he can't throw the football. Well, they're protecting the quarterback, and well, they should. We need, when I say we're not only trying to do it scheme-wise as coaches, but they're making sure that the quarterbacks are going to be healthy, because that's a big investment that the league has, and these players have to stay healthy. Some people disagree with that and say, hey, they're not tough. We're protecting them. They should be, treated like any other player. But the game is changing. It has become a wide open, 3 wide receiver spacing game where the quarterback has got to make quick decisions. And I think the quickest way to stop someone in the most efficient way is to have someone close to the guys they're trying to throw it to. And when you do that, the ball's going to get out the way the rules are, the holding rules, there's holding on every play. There's grabbing and all that. It's changed. The most skillful position, in my opinion, is playing defensive back in the NFL, as it is going through this regeneration of what it's going to be like in the future. And how about these guys, how they catch the ball? One-handed catches. The way they're defended, you've got to stop them.
Yeah, no, we've had the Patrick Surtain on the cover of our magazine, and I remember when we were doing the shoot, I was kind of picking his brain about that. And when you play defensive back, it's almost like you have to play offense while also playing defense, right? You're pedaling backwards instead of moving forward. You have to interpret what type of route, the cuts, all that kind of stuff. And frankly, I think you're seeing a lot of the premium players in regards to athleticism. If they're not a receiver, their skill set matches up so well to play defensive back, especially because the receivers are so much better. I don't want to say better, but so much more skillful. Right? Like you bring up the one-handed catches, right? The Justin Jeffersons of the world, the Jamar Chases of the world, guys that are setting records. And with the rules that, I'll say it, tend to favor the offense, at least from my perspective, it's never been harder to play defense and have that type of shutdown mentality like we've seen back in the day.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think that you'll continue to see the game evolve to being even more wide open. And right now, how many guys on a defense look like a defensive player? Most of them look like offensive players. You're playing 6 and 7 DBs. There's no such thing as a base defense. If you're a 4-3 and there's not 4 DBs on the field, there's not that's short yardage when you got 4 DBs. You're seeing most teams playing with 6 DBs on the field, and maybe sometimes even 7. Strong, the linebackers are now strong safeties or big corners that have to be able to, to match up with the way that people are presenting the offensive formations. And that's one of the things that I think Andy Reid has done better than anybody. I saw a statistic the other day where he's only in 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers. He's the lowest in the league. He's in jumbo. He's in 12, and that's a different thing. And I don't think anybody's talking about that because of the way that Andy does it. Yeah, he's doing it a little bit. He's doing a little bit different.
As the game evolves with more spacing, more speed, obviously the way players are protected has to evolve as well. And you work with X-Tech pads. We talk about the shoulder pads. We've talked about them on the show before. But as you run into more speed, faster collisions, you want lighter equipment, but you need it to absorb more. And X-Tech over the last few years has really become one of the predominant pads in the entire NFL. What makes that disruptive change happen?
Well, I think technology first. The technology in the X-Tech pads is far and above
there we go.
Any protective gear that we have. It's changed the way that the players wear pads. Pads are lighter, they're thinner. You have
These
more
are like butter
flexibility.
right now. I don't even feel like I'm wearing a pad.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go out and
Let's go.
Let's go.
Oklahoma drill, baby. I'm ready. I'm ready. No, it's funny.
NFL experience right down the hall.
Yeah,
You can run so it goes.
Yeah, go down
I'm
and
like Ray Lewis over the middle, man. I'm popping.
Yeah, but I've been involved with X-Tech for 7 years now, and I think it's fantastic. It's the number one pad in the NFL.
Yeah,
and it's great to see all the players. But really, to make our game better, it needs to be the number one pad in youth football and in high school football to protect the players so they don't get injured at an early age. The moms and dads are going to feel more comfortable. And that's what X-Tech's doing now, right now. They're about to come out with a new youth pad. And to me, I think it's going to change the way that the young kids get fitted.
Yep.
You know, we're doing things at X-Tech right now where you get fitted virtually. You know, they measure you,
scan it.
they scan it, and you know, we're making the pad available for everyone. And it's just unbelievable. The technology in the pad is top shelf, and it now is going to be able to be worn by people. Can go on, you just get on your laptop, go on the website, and you can fit your child for a pad.
People want to learn more about it. Where do they go?
Well, the first, like anybody, they can go on at xtech.com. They can go to it's xtechpads.com. They can go to at xtech pads on Instagram. Those are two. And everybody, I don't use Instagram.
You ain't missing much.
Not missing much. You know, I'm kind of the old school. You know, if I text, it's an emergency.
Right.
But you know, they're 100% American made. We need to make sure that it's not only the number one in professional football, but we need to make sure it's number one in the high school ranks, in the youth football leagues. Let's protect our kids. That's the next generation of the great players.
Well, one thing I could tell you for sure is, like, having gone to the Broncos games, having go to the Buffs games, I mean, X-Tech is becoming a bit of a status symbol.
Yeah.
Like, I know Patrick Surtain wears X-Tech, and it's crazy because after I was introduced to you guys, I'm watching the warm-ups, and I'm like, oh, he's got X-Tech, he's got X-Tech, he's got X-Tech. And much like, you know, the sleeves or the guards they wear in baseball, right? Nobody used to wear that 10, 15 years ago. And now if you're in Little League, high school ball, everyone's all, you know, geared out with all this kind of stuff. I think X-Tech's taking a similar path. So it is the pad of today, but also the pad of the future. All the big stars wearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the number one pad in the NFL. And, you know, the goal obviously is to be the number one pad in all of football.
Yeah, well, on your way.
Yes, thank you.
Well, protecting the future of the game, evolving the game so we can keep doing these at the Super Bowl Radio Row Media Center. That's the point, right? We love football. We want to keep it going. That involves making sure that everybody continues to play it so we can grow the game in a healthy way so kids can continue to play for generations to come. Make sure you check it out at xtechpads.com. Always good to talk to Coach Mike Smith, Super Bowl champion, 2008 AP Coach of the Year, 3-time Sporting News Coach of the Year. You want to talk football, you get a little bit smarter sitting next to this guy. Coach, thanks so much.
Oh, guys, it's always good to talk with you.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks so much. We'll be back with more on Mile High Sports Today.
So many bills. Like, I can't even afford charcuterie.
No summer vacation. That's a thing. The worst? Talking on the phone with my voice like an animal.
Adulting is hard. Hooters is easy. All the games, all the wings, all the beers, all season. No worries. Hooters.
Welcome back to Mile High Sports Today from Media Row. We're going to call it Media Row. It feels weird. It's just Radio Row forever, but we're going to call it Media Row here in New Orleans live at the Super Bowl. This is a man here that is very familiar to fans locally in Colorado. Joey Porter Sr., it is nice to get a chance to talk to you. Of course, former Colorado State Ram, a Pittsburgh Steeler, long time, and of course, you've been in the coaching ranks, coached a little bit at CSU with Jim McElwain as well. Delighted to get a chance to talk to Joey. Remember, the big game is on February 9th. Go ahead and watch it, by the way, with America's favorite cheerleaders. That's right. Everything we've done here has been brought by our friends at Hooters. The Hooters girls. The Hooters has you covered with all the football action for the big screen TVs, ice cold beer, mouth-watering wings. Grab a Bud Light for $3.11 or Modelo Especial for $4.15 while you root on your favorite team. Hooters is your big game headquarters. This is one of those big games, right? And we're talking about, you've been in a lot of them. We're talking about something unprecedented here, the opportunity to win 3 in a row for the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you look at this matchup, we saw the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and it's kind of strength against strength, right?
Yes.
And as a defensive player, when you look at these two teams designed as very different ways, what are the challenges of taking on someone like the Chiefs, who are very efficient and consistent, slow heartbeat, or someone with that really dynamic offense that the Eagles have behind Saquon Barkley, where they added him, and now they look very, very different in Philly?
First of all, congratulations to both teams getting to this point, and it's going to be a tough matchup for any defense to stop either one. I think the difference for me when I'm watching Kansas City is, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, and he's dangerous. I mean, it's the reason why he gets to this game every year. It's the reason why he's in this situation. And we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. What him and Kelsey have done to this point is, man, let's be honest, is amazing. Like they have a plan that's pretty efficient. How they run their offense over there. So from a defensive standpoint, I'd like to focus on Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is going to be the win, lose a game. He don't make turnovers when he gets this deep in the playoffs. Like, what they don't understand is when the game get close, when it's 3rd and 2s and 3rd and 3s, he's keeping it. Like, he's going to run it. Like, he don't run the ball as much during the regular season because there's really no need to. But when the playoffs get here, watch how he controls that ball. He's not going to turn it over. Like, he's going to do everything he can to protect that ball. And then on the other side, that Saquon's going to come in and have a good run and attack, but they still have dangerous wide receivers also. They do. You know what I mean? They just went through a phase where they make it seem like they can't pass because the running was going so good, but they actually have a good passing game over there in Philly. So they have 2 good offenses. They both have 2 good defenses. It's going to be a good game, but, I really believe it's going to come down to quarterback play.
You talked about Travis Kelce, obviously puts a lot of pressure on a defense. Out in Denver, they've been looking for a tight end for a long time. I mean, it's just basically been not a lot in that room. And especially in today's offenses, we looked at the final 4 teams, right? You had Zach Ertz and Goddard and not only Kelce, but Gray, and you had Knox and Kincaid on the Bills. These tight ends obviously are really impactful players, especially nowadays. You played a lot of linebacker. Why is that? What is the kind of stress that the tight end, especially the ones that are good route runners and have good hands, that they can put on that linebacking position and really kind of carve up defenses from the middle of the field?
Well, the easiest passes is over the middle. The easiest plays is anything that you're throwing over the middle, down the seams. The matchups, the best matchup sometimes is going to be Kelce on the linebacker. I mean, that's the matchup that the offense coordinator is looking for. That's the matchup that Patrick Mahomes coming to the line. He's looking to see who's over Kelce. And if he sees it's a linebacker, if you're sitting inside, he's just going to leverage outside. If you're sitting outside, he's going to come back inside. And if Kelsey's running the in route and you come to him, he's going to keep going by you. Like, he knows how to find the hole in the defense. He knows when to set the route down and snap it off and sit down. And you got Patrick Mahomes throwing it to you. He's going to throw you a catchable ball. So, I think the connections to the tight ends becomes more heightened when you get to the playoffs, because when you get to playoffs, you got to think the weather starts to change. It's cold, right? It's easier to throw a little 8-yard pass to a tight end and then taking the 30, 40-yard bomb down the middle or up top. That's a harder completion when you got these good tight ends, big catch radius versus a linebacker, 8, 9-yard pass that can turn into 15. So I just think you game plan different when you get further into the playoffs. Like, the weather becomes a factor, but when you get to the Super Bowl, take the weather out.
Right.
Man, we're going to dial this thing up, put it on 75 degrees and play football. You know what I mean? Like, they can set the temperature here now.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
It ain't that. So now everybody's back in play. You know what I mean? You're not stuck to like, oh, it's so cold, we got to run the ball. No. Everything is back in play. pass, run game, all of it alike. So, like, don't take Brown and Slim Reaper out of it.
Oh, no.
No, they're going to be actively in this game. And you got to watch out for Saquon and Hurst. And on the same time, Kansas City has all its weapons. I feel like come game day, defensive coordinator is going to have to be on their best game plan because all the offense, and you know Andy Reid is good at pulling out more shit on game day.
Yeah, exactly.
He has 4 or 5 plays that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Just know that. Like, he has 4 or 5 plays that he's going to pull out that we haven't seen yet.
You've been in this moment, in these big Super Bowl moments, and it's different during the playoff runs, but we know that this game is different. And you have 2 teams now out of the offense, defense. 22 of the 44 starters are the same from the matchup we saw just a couple of years ago. So it's a more veteran squad in both cases. But for people who make that debut in the Super Bowl, even though you know it's coming, even though you've had the playoffs, it's different. What's different about it? And how do you prepare yourself for that moment where you realize that this is something you've dreamed about since you were a kid and it's this close?
Anxiety, overcorrecting yourself, wanting to be perfect, don't want to be the guy who mess up on anything, can cause problems. Like, it's not just a regular game, but you got to tell yourself it's a regular game. It's going to take longer than ever. The damn halftime show is going to be an hour and a half. Everything is going to be dragged out longer than you do. So your normal setup for a game day is about to change. You normally get to the stadium 2 hours before the game. You're going to get there 2 hours, but you're not going to go out there to 4 hours. You know what I mean? So everything is going to change. You got to bottle up all that emotion to calm yourself down. Don't overexert yourself. Some people, I remember we got to the Super Bowl, you was out there for so long, cats is warming up with all that energy because you just fired up to play, and you can overexert yourself. So like me, I'm a guy on Super Bowl. I came out there, I did a quick warm-up. I mean, I come out there early, get a quick warm-up because I just know we're going to be here 3 or 4 hours before we even start playing. And it's hard because you think, you ain't never been here.
Right.
This is your first time. Who the hell ain't excited to get out there on Super Bowl?
Right.
Like, you're excited. Like, you ain't never did this before. So you have that anxiety going, like, you want to get out here early. You want to be ready. I don't want to overexert myself to, like, I got to come back in and get pumped back up again. So you have all that stuff going on. But that's the advantage that Kansas City has. They played in this game so many times. So when their new player, that rookie class is coming in and those couple of free agents is coming over, they just go follow the vets and watch how calm they are about the situation. Imagine this, Kelsey and Mahomes in their 5th one. Everybody else is all fired up because we walk into the locker room. You can't wait to see what your locker look like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you walk into your locker, you seeing all the stuff, you like, damn. And these dudes just walking around, peeling oranges, drinking Gatorade because it's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They did it. This their 5th time doing it. So they ain't having all the, like, we're coming in there, everybody got their phone out.
And you don't have to coach up the youngest. You don't have to tell them about it. Just lead by example. Just do what you do.
They're going to come in. They've been prepping their guys all week. Man, when you get down here, don't get all this overexcited. Suck it all in, but we still have the game in hand to win. And I think that people think it don't mean something, but shit, it means something. I watch people get so antsy and make mistakes because they're just so geeked up.
Yep.
They ain't trying to make a mistake, but they're so overexcited. Shit happens.
We talked about it with the Denver Broncos Super Bowl 48 where they lost to the Seahawks. The very first offensive play, the snap to Peyton Manning went right over his head for a safety. And it all went downhill from there. I mean, that was
decided. And it
right?
wasn't even like you think he hiked that ball like that a million times, but that time.
Yep. That one moment, and that's it. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So you are, of course, 4-time Pro Bowler, Joey Porter, and you are with GNC talking about how you keep up with health and wellness. Obviously, look, you played a taxing game. It comes with a cost.
It comes with a cost, but with GNC Live Well, how it helps me and my afterlife is like, you know, I'm big on multivitamins and creatine and doing anything that I can to take care of my body. I did a lot of it when I played, but so much now how I live my life after I play. I take the GNC Live Well because not only does it make me feel better after football, it just helped me get ready for my day. So I'm kind of simple. I don't push a lot of different things, but it's multivitamins, a little creatine here, all the stuff that helps you live well. Far as I'm not the guy that's trying to go in there and take all this stuff and go bench 500 pounds.
Right.
That guy's over. I'm not getting ready for a football game to play. I'm getting ready to live life. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to live well to be healthy enough to play golf, and that's why I rely on GNC Live Well for that.
Yeah, you don't need a whole tackle box of
man.
things. I mean, it can be pretty easy to do that, just to stay on top of it.
Man, stay on top of it. Make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. We have a promo code, $10 off if you get on there and use the code Big Game.
Big Game, okay.
The code Big Game, and you get a 10% a promo code with that. But it's GNC headquarters in Pittsburgh. They've been a long partner with the Steelers. So if they're a long partner with the Steelers, at some point in time, there was going to be a long partner of Joey Porter Sr.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it happened.
A lot of championships out there in Pittsburgh as well. Joey Porter Sr., of course, and congratulations, by the way, one of the newest Steelers, your son. Obviously,
Man, I appreciate it.
It's very exciting. Former Steeler, father of a current Steeler, and former Colorado State Ram, Joey Porter. Thanks so much for the time. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the game.
Man, I appreciate it, man. And best of luck to you guys. Follow Mile High.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to follow Mile High.
Thank you so much.
I like to cover this magazine right here.
All right. Well, we'll make sure we get you some of that. We'll make sure we take care of you. Thanks so much, Joey Porter Sr. We're live from Media Row in New Orleans. We'll be back with more on My Life Sports Today.